You need to take a step back from firefighting to see the business a year, 2 years. So now you have to be a planner and instead of being an executor. And that requires you to understand, number one, the industry dynamics. You have to know where's your positioning amongst all the competition. Number two, you also have to be very plugged in the macro trend, consumer trend as well. So knowing what's happening externally and also knowing what's your internal capability. Bridge the gap. That's my definition of strategic planning. I spend a lot more time thinking, writing, instead of looking at the day-to-day, putting fires out.
Welcome to Brave. Learn from Southeast Asia's best tech leaders. Build the future, learn from our past, and stay human in between. No BS on success. I'm Jeremy Au, venture capitalist, serial founder, Harvard MBA, science fiction nerd, and dad of 2 daughters. Every week, we debate startup news, interview changemakers, answer listener questions, and share personal insights. Join our movement of over 40,000 members and get transcripts, resources, and community at www.bravesea.com. Stay well and stay brave. You don't want to miss Geeks on a Beach, the unique premier startup conference in the region. Join us from November 13th to 15, 2024 at J Park Island Resort in Mactan, Cebu. This event brings together tech enthusiasts, investors, and entrepreneurs for 3 days of workshops, talks, and networking. Register at geeksonabeach.com and use code BRAVEC for a 45% discount for the first 10 registrations and 35% off for the next ones. Hey, Jingjing, how are you?
Good. How are you, Jeremy?
Why are you laughing? Just because we know each other?
Yeah,
It's like we just hang out already and now we're doing a podcast.
I know. I mean, it feels like just having a conversation with you.
Yeah. Now it's time to make it horrible and stilted and awkward.
Just don't ask me any difficult questions.
So I'm excited to have you to show Jingjing because we've been friends for a while and you've been out and we've seen you transition from being a general manager to being a startup founder. And so I think it's a fascinating journey to see. Could you share a little bit about yourself, Jingjing?
Yeah, currently I'm the co-founder and CEO of Superbench. Previously, I was GM at Helpling, which is a platform for home services. And now Superbench basically using AI technologies to transform these home services to get them ready for the future, to allow them to not only to survive, but to thrive in this market.
Amazing. Yeah. So I think we first connected because we're both graduates of UC Berkeley, right? And so I want to ask, what were you like as a student at UC Berkeley? I just got back from there just a week ago to see my old professor. So I'm just kind of curious. Were you fun?
Yeah.
Were you cool? Were you nerdy?
Oh man, I think that was a really tough experience because I was an exchange student. So I went to Berkeley as a junior and I have to declare major in the first semester. And then the moment I walk into campus, everyone's, oh, join our sorority, join our fraternity, and we're going to help you to find a job in investment banking. That was the first thing I remember. So that was very overwhelming. So I think I studied so much. And then at the same time, also just try to go to every single recruitment info session as much as I can.
So you went to Ascend, and I actually was at a semester at this club called Ascend as well. So we just found out that we were Ascend, what do you want to call them?
Brothers, sisters?
Brothers, sisters? I don't know. Sounds so awkward when you say that. I have a real sister in real life. So yeah, but what were you like at Ascend? And so you chose that, you signed up to that info session. Why did you do that?
You know how those like fraternities, they are really competitive to get in? It's harder to get into those than actual getting a job in investment banking. So obviously as a transfer student, I did not get into any of those. When people ask me, why do you want to join investment banking? I'm like, to make more money. Yeah, obviously these are not the right answer. But for Ascent, because it was more on the accounting side, so they're not as cutthroat as those fraternities. So when I just walk in and just show up being by myself and they accepted me to be part of their social communities because they think I'm fun, apparently.
Awesome. That's great. So there you are at Berkeley and you're just kind of like doing everything that needs to get done. And then you left to join finance. So what was that? I guess you told them that you wanted to make more money, but you said it in a more tactful way.
Yeah, I mean, someone coming out from China, growing out from China, because the society kind of tell you success equals money. That's kind of how I grew up and ingrained it in my mind that I need to make money to show people that I'm successful. Obviously, nowadays, I have a complete different definition of what success means to me. So obviously I went for a job where people think, oh, this is money, this is fame. I don't know. Is that the same for your upbringing in Singapore society?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I think it's a little different.
Yeah. So that's why I went ahead with this job. Obviously, it pays me the most. It feels good. Because when I tell people that, oh, I work for an investment bank in San Francisco working with technology startups, and people just feel like, oh my God, you must be so rich. You must be making a lot. You must be, all these things that just comes. But obviously later on, I realized this ain't it. This is not what life is about.
Yeah. And then so what happened is that you went off to do this finance job for 2 years. And what did you learn from this experience?
I think it really made me a well-rounded person because I absolutely just did not like that job. So obviously I was terrible at investment banking doing the job. But what I learned was doing financial modeling, also talking to senior people in a corporate, learning how to draft legal documents. So it made me a really well-rounded person from due diligence experience, traveling, talking to senior stakeholders. And that 2 years, I think it was extremely rewarding now looking back. As a young professional, you get exposure to every single department of the company.
What do you think best thing you learned from that experience?
How to communicate with a CEO, CFO of a public company. You realize they're just a human, just like you. You really don't have to have any baggage when you're talking to them. You can chit chat with them. How's your day? How's the weather? How are your kids? How's your holiday? These kind of things that really helps me to talk to people from all different backgrounds and culture.
Amazing. And you choose to leave and you also choose to move countries after that to Singapore. So what was the context of that?
So I really did not like UK, I think mainly because number one, I was working quite a bit. Number two, the weather. So back then, I was dating a guy and then he says, why don't you move to Singapore or Hong Kong? I'll go with you. Because back then, we worked for the same company. Houlihan Lokey. And Houlihan has an office in Hong Kong. So I was just trying to get a whole bunch of offers from Hong Kong and Singapore. And eventually I got all fintech offers except Helpline. And because I was so traumatized using money to make more money, I rejected all fintech offers and I went for cleaning. So yeah, and that's how I end up in Singapore.
Wow, amazing. So I have to ask, so did that relationship work out?
It worked out really well. My family members did not really understand why I chose cleaning, right? They're like, oh, you can't even iron your own clothes very well. It's all creased and all that. And then I burn clothes everywhere. They're like, why would you choose cleaning? But then after I explained it to them, it's a platform. Now they get it. They couldn't understand for 2 years.
What a time. And I think what I meant as well was, did that relationship work out? Did moving for your person work out?
It's history now. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so gotcha. So you moved for love and it didn't work out, but you got a job and you were in a successful job and you changed industries. So you did that double jump. So could you share a little bit more about how did you see the growth of Helpling and what you were doing as part of that?
Yeah, so Helpling was very different than investment banking. The biggest difference is on my day one, the moment I walk into the office, I was expecting people would set up your laptop, show you this is how it works, this is company policy, whatever. No. When I walk in, hey, Jingjing, can you pick up the phone? Customers are complaining. What? I don't even know. What are you guys doing? Right? I was like, can I get a laptop? Oh, we have a stack of laptop in a shelf. Can you just go check which one works and use that for now? So that was my experience since day one. And then from there, we didn't have product market fit initially. And we just pivot the business model and they're really just grinding it through every single day. Otherwise, the company can shut down next month, right? So I didn't know what else I could do other than just working hard and really trying to figure out, okay, what's the problem that I can solve right now? So I think after a year and a half or 2 years, the moment you found product market fit, you feel it. It's the combination of thrill, fear, and excitement all together. It's like, oh wow, all these jobs are coming in and all the clients are staying. Now we need to grow. How do I get more people accepting jobs? Oh wow, every day it's like you wake up, you just see so many jobs comes in and all the clients are, hey, can I book again? Can I book again? Right? So yeah, I think I resonate very much when people say that when you found product market fit, you feel it. And from that point, I realized, oh, I'm just not doing ops anymore. I need to build a team. I need to offload this. Previously, me and James, my boss, we were doing matching every single day, 7 days a week. Now I realize it's not enough anymore. We need a team. So you learn how to build a team, how to recruit people, retain talent. Yeah, that was a journey. It's fun.
And I think what's interesting is that you stepped up eventually to become general manager. So what were some of the changes in that role from your perspective?
You need to take a step back from firefighting to see the business a year, 2 years, to be a planning role. So now you have to be a planner and instead of being an executor. And that requires you to understand, number one, the industry dynamics. You have to know where's your positioning amongst all the competition. Number one. Number two, you also have to be very plugged in the macro trend, consumer trend as well. So knowing what's happening externally and also knowing what's your internal capability, bridge the gap. And that's what my definition of strategic planning. So it's a lot of thinking. I spend a lot more time thinking, writing, instead of looking at the day-to-day, putting fires out.
So when you're working on putting all those fires out versus planning, how does the trade-off happen from your perspective?
Putting fires out, basically you just look at what's happening right now. That was definitely a switch. I was fortunate to have coaches, performance coach that I get to work together. And then they really helped me to, when you're in the mid transitioning from putting fires out and to planning, you have a lot of things to do. So a lot of times I was overwhelmed and I was stressed because when I see, okay, we're growing, but we're losing clients, or I'm focusing on retention, but then I see we're not growing. So it's constantly back and forth. It feels very tiring and overwhelming. And then employees, you start seeing they're not happy. So it's a lot of things to juggle. But then the moment I start working with a performance coach, it really helps me to see that, oh, actually, these incidents, it doesn't happen that often. I don't have to worry about them right now. But if I don't plan, it will happen more often. So that's when I really start changing my mind. Every time when things happen, it's like, calm down, look at the numbers, look at the stats, do some math. Does that going to impact the business in the next month or two? Based on these facts and evidence, if it does, okay, let's plan this to prevent this from happening. If it doesn't, let's monitor it. Don't be too worried about it first. So I think getting a coach, that was extremely helpful. I cannot see myself changing that mindset very quickly without having a coach on the side.
So what's interesting is that you were thinking all this time as a GM and then you eventually decided to become a founder eventually. So kind of walk us through that journey.
Yeah, because of this whole coaching and therapy at Helpling, I grew a lot as a person as well. Back then, I think I was 27, 28. Grew the business with the team to 30 million AR a year. And that's when I realized what's next. I realized I was young. I have tremendous amount of energy. I have no dog, no dad, no husband back then. So let's take some risk with life. Knowing all people like you, right? People in the Berkeley Club, like Aaron, who else? Vivek, left banking and be a farmer. I was like, man, this is like very inspiring. Maybe I should do something like this as well. So I decided to maximize my risk tolerance at that point of time. Then the best way to do it, step one, is to leave your comfort zone. Helpling was a comfort zone. So I was like, okay, I need to leave. So I start planning. That means step one, I need to really delegate everything that I was doing. So I start planning the succession. So I want to make sure without me, the business will still continue to grow. Once I've done that, I was like, okay, it's time. I feel very happy that this journey has come to an end. When it comes to an end, you feel it. And that's when I tender.
Wow. And when you think about Helpling and when you think about that experience, you took a lot of those lessons. Could you share a little bit more about what you're building today?
Yeah. After I left Helpling, obviously I still have a very good relationship with all of these home services companies. So I took the chance to talk to about 40 of them. I realized all of them have operational issues and all of them have juggling in between operations and sales. And with the problem that I was solving at Helpling, the biggest driver, we solved the sales funnel conversion problem by having an army of people talking to customers so we can respond to them really fast. But at the same time, we can match their job really fast as well because we have a separate matching team. And that's a lot of people, processes, a lot of data going around. And then likely you're going to have too many cooks in the kitchen. So then one of my clients was like, hey, we really have this issue. Can you just help me to increase my sales? Because I have, let's say, 2,000 marketing budget. I can't increase it anymore, but I see all these leads go to waste. So we ran a POC with them with AI, gathering all the information instantly and also converse decision with the end consumer instantly. And the results was 3x the sales conversion. And that's when I realized, oh, what I did with human, this works better with AI. And we still keep people in the loop. So everyone knows what's happening. Instead of if you need people to step in, they can do it anytime. So why don't we scale this? So I ran the POC with a couple more clients. It worked for every single one of them. So with the same marketing budget, now your sales conversion is 3x. Imagine that. Obviously, marketing team is happy, the business owner is happy, the team is happier as well. So that's when I realized we have a good business here, and I want to scale this with all the home services companies in the industry. And what's interesting is that I start having companies that's not doing home services reaching out to me, and I realized there's a use case with them as well. So yeah, that's what we're doing here, building an AI sales and ops. Right now it's sales and scheduling, but eventually we want to build a revenue ops agent for them.
So what's the challenges? Because it feels like we're having two different conversations, right? One we have is like this, ooh, wow, AI, can do everything. So there's that story. And then the other part is saying is that these are services businesses. So we just get stuff done, fix a toilet, fix a window. These are kind of like on the ground stuff. So could you share a little bit more about that translation or what are the challenges with this?
Yeah. I think the key is that we need to understand the current state of LLM very well as a technology provider. There are, I would say, 80% of use case where you do not require an LLM to kind of automate the process. However, with LLM, with that bridging the 20% gap, it makes the whole thing much more efficient and that can really get the job done. So what I'm trying to do here is that we're not just handling part of the conversation, but what we're trying to do is that I need to get the job done for the company. For example, I will fully automate your sales. So it's a technology plus a service part, where I will fully automate your scheduling portion. Then this is traditional technology, right? So I need to help these companies to understand, treat me like a tech plus service provider. I will get one job done for you. So you can focus on your offline experience, which is help you to build your brand for the long term. And this is what people really need to think about. In the long term, we still need plumbers. We still need people to come in to fix your aircon. Who can do the job at the first try? This determines your overall Google reviews, your brand, and referral as well.
So when you say that we want to understand what is the extent of LLMs and you're saying that a lot of it doesn't need to be done by it per se, how would you divide the responsibilities between what an LLM does versus what simple automation or process SOP?
Yeah, so for example, scheduling. To schedule an end consumer and a service provider, you need to first of all know scope, price, where, what time, and who's going. Very rule-based scheduling. LLMs struggle to follow rules. So this is where you use traditional matching algorithm, then getting LLM to match. They're gonna match an aircon provider to a cleaning job. I can guarantee you. So this is where the use case is not very suitable for LLM. But what LLM can do is to converse the decision. Hey, Jeremy, you want to book a cleaner for next week? I understand that. However, we realize we don't have anyone next Wednesday. So what about next Thursday? I can tell you immediately, give you a recommendation. Instead of you wait for an hour. Hey, sorry, we don't have someone. It's like you wait an hour to get a no versus you get a no now, but I give you a recommendation. So this is something that I did with human back that help link. This actually the chance for you to say yes to the proposed slot is about 90% if I can do it instantly.
And when you think about all of that, what are some of the challenges that service businesses have in terms of implementing AI or automation?
They think everything is AI. They think nowadays technologies, everything's AI. Can your AI press this button for me? Can your AI generate invoice for me? Can your AI check which client pay now me?
The answer is
No.
yes, I guess.
No.
Well, from a sales perspective, I would say yes. From a technical perspective, we know.
Yeah. So a lot of questions that I get is, oh, can your AI write the invoice for me so the client will always get an invoice upfront? The answer is obviously no, because that's finance accounting. Can your AI do your books? Then I will always tell them, this is AI salesman. AI salesman does not create an invoice for you, but AI salesman does sales, which means quote, and then which means trying to understand the scope and then trying to quote with the client and align the scheduling. So if I go from a problem approach, that helps company to understand, okay, what's the job to be done here? So I always go back to tell them this is a problem. And instead of telling them AI can do all, let them take the conversation and go all the way around. But there's a huge education piece of it during my sales process because these companies, they don't really understand technology. So a lot of time I have to draw the diagram from the first touch points from the clients to, let's say, payment, to even after sales customer support. That's a huge touch points, whole journey there. So without being the industry expert, I struggle to think anyone can do this. And once I walk them through it, we kind of just sell it ourselves. They want to work with us because they can see that we're industry experts.
And what's the benefits of implementing AI for a service company? What does that be qualitatively and quantitatively?
So number one, immediately they see their sales conversion increase, so the CAC will decrease. That's number one. Number two, you can see their employees are getting upgraded as well. Employees, they start to understand what LM can do, what LM cannot do. And with that, they can give us a lot more feedback for us to tune the model for every single client that we have. And then they're also getting used to it as well. So for example, one of my clients on Sunday morning, he woke up, he's like, bro, I woke up with 10 leads. Previously, I woke up with 40 unanswered messages. It's a huge difference. And we have another client, we switched AI off for a week. They have 3 customer support agents on the ground. They're like messaging us, can you switch it back? Please. We are so busy right now. I look at the conversation, it's just like, we're so busy answering all the questions. We have to do the mental math for all the packages that they're doing. So like they really see the value add. Then employees, they can spend more time dealing with clients who really needs their help. For example, elderly care. But instead of answering basic question, oh, can you serve chua chu gang? Do you bring cleaning tools? Things like this. So these are the 2 main things that we've been seeing.
What do you think is the dream AI you think for a service business from your perspective?
I think we really want to be the single source of truth for these companies, meaning all the data will be sitting with us. And for an operator, previously, you need to know which tool you need to go to find certain information. They have to learn, okay, click this, then you get the customer transaction. In the future, just ask. They don't have to know where to go to look for certain information. They just ask, and information will be served to them.
When you think about the future, what do you think needs to be built? Because you see LLMs getting more advanced, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think is the easy part that you think the future will bring, and what are the harder parts that the future will find it more difficult?
Ideally, every single company will have their BI team have all the data at one place, structured, unstructured, right? Ideally. However, for these home services, they have no SOP. They don't really have any history. All their CRM sitting in their WhatsApp. So they have no data points whatsoever. Then what happens is for us, part of our job is to really start collecting data for them. And then slowly we become the single source of truth. And then they can use this, let's say their brain, to start making a lot more business decisions, because this cannot be replaced by AI or anything. You as a business owner, setting the strategy for the company, still crucial for the business, right? But what insights can you extract from the history to help you to make that decision? I think this is what we're trying to get to.
And when you think about this proto roadmap that you're building, what are the things that you're going to be building?
So step 1, collecting data. And if you think about the first touch points is sales. And when you want to do sales right, there's a scheduling component, because in the service industry, sales is incomplete without scheduling. You want a haircut appointment. Hey, I want a haircut. Sure. When? You need to know when and where. So for that, we need the client's information as well as the service provider's information. We're starting with collecting the client's information. We're halfway there. And with the service provider's information, that needs a combination of the company's information as well as the service provider's whereabouts. Once we have all these together, we have all the data that we need to be a brain.
You know, what's interesting is that obviously there's always that debate between verticalized SaaS, right? Just being the SaaS for one industry, which is in this case home services or other service company, versus kind of like horizontal layer, which is, for example, salesperson, but for multiple industries. How do you see this differentiation from your perspective?
I'm obviously pro vertical SaaS. From my experience, what I'm seeing is that these SMBs, either they just use WhatsApp as the only tool that they work with clients, or they have a combination of 4 tools at least to serve their entire customer base. So you see the 2 extreme, right? The one tool provider trying to level themselves up. So they're looking at tools that can help them with a specific problem. Or there's another company that has 4 different tools. Agents, they're copy and pasting for every single tools. They don't really understand how to use Zapier. Or a lot of time when they're choosing, they're not thinking about the linkage. How do I link them? So they end up choosing tools that's the cheapest with no API, with no Zapier link. So they're pretty much stuck there. Or you see another type. They're a more established business. They would take the government grant to build their own customized solution. They're stuck there, right? because they already invested it and there's no way for them to drop that because they feel very proud with their own technology, even if it's very buggy. So what we're trying to do is to bridge the gap of the 4 different tools kind of company. They're already using, let's say, 4 or 5 tools to run their business. We try to kind of bring that, okay, for these 4 tools, first, I'm going to drop your booking funnel one and then drop your scheduling one. Then next, we'll integrate with your payment, with your invoicing. Eventually, this becomes something that kind of the single source of truth for running your whole company. Instead of you have to go through, for scheduling, you have to go to Jobber. For sales, you have to go to Acuity. For invoice, you have to go to Zoho. Eventually, accounting, zero. So it's a lot for a service company to deal with. And each department, they don't talk to each other. That's horrible. Sales team doesn't know their sales number. Accounting team doesn't know the sales team's numbers. It's not very good for running a home services like this.
When we think about this kind of problem, is there a certain scale that kicks off, or you think it happens from small scale as well? Because I think services business, you see like single person shops, which I assume this problem doesn't happen, all the way to 10. And I also feel like service businesses tend to have a natural plateau for how big they can get because they're primarily using humans to talk to each other as well.
Yeah, for Singapore context, it's quite easy. So the turning point is when they have to be GST registered.
Oh, why?
Because that's 1 million revenue, right? They
Yeah.
have to decide, okay, do I want to go over 1 million? Do I really want to grow? Because the moment you go over 1 million, let's say you make 1.2, your unit economic will shrink by a lot. So the moment they decided that, okay, I want to grow to, let's say, over the GST curve, then they're growing a lot faster than when they decided, okay, I just want to stay within 1 million. I don't want to be a big company. Then they're perpetually stuck there. So what I'm looking for are those companies who will go through the 1 million mark and really trying to be GST registered, right? The moment they feel the pressure because the moment that's 9-10% is gone from the revenue, then they need to think about how can I reduce my cost? How can I increase my revenue? Because they still have all these salary to pay. The liability is there. So that's when the business owners start thinking about how do I run a proper business than putting fires out every single day.
Yeah. On that note, I was just wondering, could you share about a time that you personally have been brave?
Okay, you know how people talk about investment banking, you make a lot of money? Back then, it was real struggle to let go of a job that has so much fame and so much kind of leave the money on the table kind of feeling. I left that job even without not getting bonus because that's how miserable I was. And I decided that even if I was in a path to success in other people's definition, but eventually if I'm not happy, I don't think that's success in my own definition. So I decided to do things that will really make me feel better as a person than making more money. And then later I realized if you do things that you really enjoy, money will come. This has been my motto ever since. Just find your passion and do things you love, and money, fame, whatever, that's byproduct for doing something that you enjoy.
When you think about that, about doing work that you enjoy, the money will follow, how do you think that has shown up in your life?
Yeah, definitely. For one, at Helpling, when I first joined Helpling, I was getting 5K a month. Sing. Imagine that difference from being an investment banker to 5K sing a month, right? But then because I was doing a great job, so I get a salary increase like very frequently. And then obviously later become a GM of the company and running a huge P&L. Obviously you see that translated in a financial perspective. And also when I start building Superbench, I think we had this discussion previously, I wanted to bootstrap. But then every day I wake up with 3-4 investors just slide into my DM. I took that as a sign to start fundraising. And I just talked to these people and slowly refine my pitch. And slowly my round was completely oversubscribed. I had to open up a second tranche because it doesn't make sense for me to sell the company at a really cheap price. So that really just translates into this. My CTO thought, why are you fundraising every single day? I'm like, look at my calendar. It's all inbound. I'm not doing any outbound. So I think I'm extremely lucky to be in a position, especially in the current funding market, to be kind of just taking all these inbound kind of inquiries from VCs and angels than me have to go through the list doing all the outbound. So I'm very grateful for the experience. And this is where I feel like following the flow of life really make a lot more sense.
On that note, thank you so much for sharing. I love to summarize the 3 big takeaways I took note of. The first is thank you so much for sharing about, I guess, your university days, but also why you decided to join banking for money, but also a little bit about yourself, about how you made some of those decisions along the way. Secondly, thanks for sharing about your time as a GM and really kind of sharing about what you learned about helping, but also about what are the skill sets about needing to firefight and the plan and the zoom out at the same time. Lastly, thanks so much for sharing about what you've learned from building an AI startup that is servicing service businesses. And I really appreciate you doing all of that. Before I wrap up, I understand that you also have a podcast for service businesses. Do you want to share people to where they can go to?
Yeah, so you can just go to YouTube/Service Business Show to find the show. So the reason I started the Service Business Show is whenever I'm down, my boyfriend just think about the pest control business. Immediately my motivation goes up. It's like, okay, let's do things that boost my energy by talking to more service people. And I want the rest of the industry to really hear directly from these business owners. This is a gold mine. Anyone who comes in, I'm telling you, I can help you to go from 0 to 200K revenue in a month. Can you believe that?
Wow, it sounds like you have a course to and a book to write. Okay. On that note, thank you so much, Jingjing, for sharing. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Really enjoy talking to you, Jeremy.
Thank you for listening to Brave. If you enjoyed this episode, please share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. We would also appreciate you leaving a rating or review. Head over to www.bravesea.com for member content, resources, and community. Stay well and stay brave.